Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Distant Worlds 2, which originally streamed live on Twitch. So before I start, I want to explain what I can about Distant Worlds, sort of summarizing what it is, what to expect, and then also explain some of the commands that we have in the chat. So, Distant Worlds... Is the music still too loud? I feel like it's still too loud. Look at the volume slider here. I'm at like a whopping 8%. There we go. Distant Worlds 2 is a real-time 4X space strategy game in a massive galaxy, which is very customizable. There's a lot of options when you start a new game. This stream will be casual, because I am far from an expert, but you'll definitely get a glimpse of the game while watching. The game will be set on all of the default settings, pretty much across the board. And we are going to be starting as the Ackdarian, which is a water race. And I figured that sort of ties well into the fact that I've been doing a lot of the aquatic DLC for Stellaris recently. So we'll just continue that theme. And there will be giveaways and raffles. So the raffle is for characters. There's a specific type of thing that can be renamed called characters in the game. And that's what's going to be raffled. There's a finite number of them. Because in Distant Worlds 2, you can pretty much rename anything. So instead of this just being a raffle stream where I just keep clicking names forever and naming things, it's going to be for characters only, which there will only be a finite number. And then there's a giveaway. I'll be giving away 6 copies of Distant Worlds 1 donated by the developer throughout the stream. And there's a giveaways command and raffles command that sort of lets you know more about that. So right at the start here, there is something like 7 or 8 different screens for how you want to set up your galaxy. So I'm going to be going straight default across the board. So if you have an interest in playing along and you're lost, plain old defaults is going to work for you. But there's galaxy shapes, there's how many stars. Obviously, the larger the amount, the longer the game. How large the galaxy is, and of course it's somewhat disabled by the amount of stars, so you could have massive sprawling galaxies, or for me, I'm just going to go the default, like I said. Then for the settings, this is the age at which you're playing in, so pre-warp is just when you're starting to get up into space, same with the tech level, and you can just keep going up tech levels. And then how aggressive the galaxy is, so if you're very new and you don't want to be stomped by others, you can play peaceful, or if you invite the chaos, well, there it is, and as well as difficulty. Research speed. And then, in terms of research visibility, again, I'm leaving these as default. The random research paths adds a little bit of replayability in, but it doesn't affect that much. And I am going to allow for tech trading. So if I have an ally that has tech that I want, possibly we can trade for it. In terms of threats, pirates are sort of a early to mid-game threat that you have to deal with often. So I would not suggest turning pirates off completely unless you want a peaceful game. And there are multiple ways to deal with pirates, but primarily you can either fight them or pay them off. And then that's the pirates' strength proximity and whether they respawn or stay dead. Staying dead is kind of fun because you can make it your goal to exterminate the pirates in your vicinity, or alternatively, to go the diplomatic route and form non-aggressive pacts with them so they don't extort you anymore. And then space creatures. These are sort of, if you're familiar with Stellaris, they're sort of the space amoebas and dragons that fly around that are of varying strength, but this is how many there are. In terms of colonization, how often there are colonizable worlds and independent colonies. Independent colonies are ones that are already inhabited by a race that is usually not spacefaring, and you can build up your reputation with them and colonize them, which is a bit different than most other 4X games. You're usually just colonizing from scratch. In this game, colonizing an independent colony comes with benefits where you don't have to develop the planet very much, which means you make a profit a lot sooner. And then sort of the limits to colonization, like how far is your influence range extending for your colonies and your range limits. Now, there are multiple species that you can play, as you can see. And at the start, I'm going to do the Ackdarian. The Ackdarian is they're basically the techie water people. So if you take a look here, they have research bonuses that are generally higher than other species. And they prefer ocean planets and deep ocean planets. And they get just a total research bonus. And then, of course, how other races feel about them. So that's what we're picking. As far as the government, I am naming the empire name Lear. This is a reference to a very old 4X game called Sword of the Stars, which also had ocean techies. So why not? And then we're going to be the technocracy, because that gives even more research, and I just love research. So yeah. My starting situation, home system will be normal. Not going to make it too hard for myself. Expansion will be starting, tech level pre-warp, and location will be random. I'll just pick a totally random start location. And then you can also set up other empires. You can either auto-generate them or generate them yourself. I'm just going to say 12 random auto-generated other empires. Now, this does not include the independent colonies. They're different. This is like actual empires. And then the victory conditions, and I will leave all of it on. But there's different ways to win. Much like most other 4X games, where there's economic wins, territory wins, research wins, etc. We can just leave them all on. I'm not going to be able to win a game in one stream, so it doesn't really matter. And then what threshold you have to meet. So if you're trying like an economic dominance, you have to meet the threshold of 70%. And we'll start the game. How was that treat, Yoda? Was that good? Alright, our faction is known as the Lear. Our government is the technocracy. So basically run by scientists, more or less. We have the Ackdarian, who are typically careful. The Ackdarian have natural skills in all research, construction research, ship, etc. Our leader is going to be raffled. So as soon as I'm done reading this blurb, I'll turn on the raffle timer. Skilled in diplomacy, colony happiness, and tourism income. Ooh, that's fun. Home colony is Elfoy, a deep ocean planet in the Scypian system. Nearby is the gas giant Scypian 5, and the rocky desert moon Schemai, and the sandy desert moon Eskunai. Our faction has primitive technology. We are beginning to take our first steps into space. Explore, expand, exterminate. Alright, I do like the starting location. It is not at the edge, not in the center. I should go over some of the UI elements, because there is a lot that's going to be going on here, and what there is to learn new games, there's something called the tours, but I'm going to click on this message first. So a new leader has been generated, and for us to see the leader, here they are. So they have skills in diplomacy, colony happiness, and tourism income. Good. They seem capable. So let's go over the first tour, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to decide whether I do future tours thereafter. So the first tour is the basic tour. And this will give you sort of an overlay of what's going on in the UI. And then if you want, I can do the future tours. But I think what I'm going to do, at least for the tours, is shut the music volume off, because it's very... Later on, I'm going to give you the chance to vote whether or not you want the in-game soundtrack or one that I've curated. So let's start the basic tour. Welcome to Distant Worlds 2. This brief tour gives an overview of the major elements of the user interface. So let's get started. Moving around, typical WASD, and then there is the mouse wheel. Now there are multiple levels. There's and they're listed down here on the bottom right. So you have the zoom to home, zoom to your system, zoom to the region, zoom to the galaxy, because there's a lot of information. Next, the game menu, where you can load, save, change settings, etc., etc. The game settings. So this is, all of the galaxy map settings, the UI scale, which I have blown up a little bit so you can read it a little bit better. And then if you want to re-enable all tours, once you're done with the tours, you can do that too. Pause and faster or slower. What I will say, though, is I have found that the game crashes a lot. I'm going to flat out say a lot. The game crashes a lot on 4x speed. So don't play 4x speed. I mean, if you do, leave it just sort of automated where you're not really playing, you're just advancing time. And then when you want to do actions, slow it down to 2x. I found that like when you're zooming in on stuff quickly or when you're causing the game to basically do a lot of processing on 4x speed, it'll crash to desktop. Fortunately, there is a autosave feature which allows you to autosave every X minutes. So I have it autosaved every 3 minutes. And unlike the original game, the autosave in Distant Worlds 2 doesn't grind your computer to a halt. If any of the Distant Worlds 2 veterans here, or Distant Worlds 1 veterans here remember Distant Worlds 1, when it autosaved, it was just like halt, and everything would be frozen, and it was kind of obnoxious. So the autosave feature works just fine here. So this header is your research progress, and I'm kind of just going over the basic tour. Your research progress, how many colonies you have, your population, your money and your income, and then the date and the speed. It will also give warnings about rebelling colonies, high war weariness, and war progress. But of course, I'm not currently in a war and I don't have any rebellions, so that's a non-issue. This is your control center. This is where you're going to get most of your information and control most of the game through this menu. So there's 10 main buttons, and if you mouse over it, it gives you drop-downs. And then if you click, it will lock it in place, giving you even more information and more sub-menus. So there are menus and menus and menus and menus and menus, is all I'm going to say about that. And this is telling you that you can lock the panels open by clicking. All right. Down here, you have the sections panel, and this gives you information about what you're currently looking at. So if we click on our main star, it gives you information about that, our main planet rather, gives you information about the planet, or whatever you are currently have selected. So if I select this scuttled spaceport, it gives me information about the spaceport. And then action buttons. Sometimes there will be actions for the things that you've clicked on. So for instance, if I have the planet selected, I can queue it up to build ships, or I can set up this automation, show the detailed screen of all the information that I would want, that kind of thing. And then this is the zoom presets. I honestly probably don't use them all that much. I use the mostly the zoom to home, zoom to end, or zoom to system, zoom to location, which is with the hotkeys home, end, insert, and delete. So home, end, insert, delete. Different zoom levels. But you can also change the game angles, but if you have a middle mouse button, that's kind of moot. And this is going to talk about zoom levels and then the map overlays. The map overlays allows you to see how resources are flowing, because a lot of this game is about obtaining and acquiring resources to supply your empire and making sure that those resources are being exchanged between the producers and the consumers. And it also gives you information about nebula boundary markers, long-range scanners, diplomacy, exploration overlays, that kind of thing. Let me hide that. And then the view summary. So this view summary is going to summarize like what's going on at the zoom level that you're currently in. So here is the SIPN system where I can quickly sort of scan what's here. So I can see that there is a forest planet, which might be barely colonizable for us because we're ocean people. But basically, at my home system, there is no possibilities of additional colonization because there's no other water worlds. But it also gives you information about these spaceports. And I do have 2 unknown ships here, which could be pirate or scuttled or NPC or something like that. So it gives you kind of a nice heads-up information. This part of the tour is the messages, which pop up over here when things are happening. And here we get our first message from the Ocean of Stars. And I'll read that in a minute. The messages here are a very powerful tool because depending on your automation settings, what you can do, a lot of the game, I should preface, is automated. A lot of the game just goes automatically. Some of it not even in your control. So in Distant Worlds, there is a concept of the state and the private. The state is the one that owns military ships and construction ships and that kind of thing, exploration ships. The private owns the mining and the transportation of the goods and resources and things of that nature. You don't directly control your private, but your private produces money for you. So I get into that only because in the messages here, the messages will propose a lot of projects. It will say, like, build a mining base here. And depending on your automation settings, you can have it do it automatically. In fact, there is even a way to set up this game where it just plays itself and you do nothing, which would be weird, but I suppose it teaches you how to play the game. Or for you to do everything manually, which I will add is probably massively overwhelming, and I can't imagine really anyone plays that way. Because there's just too much to manage that essentially it would be no longer a real-time strategy game. It would be, you'd be pausing every 10 seconds or less to manage everything. And then you can filter your message log, and then it gives you a little like, hey, there's also a Galactopedia, which has information about everything. So if you ever have a question about something, just go to the Galactopedia, which is F1 or right here. Oh, let's keep this paused. All right, so let's read the Ocean of the Stars. In the ancient Ackdarian undersea city ruins, we have made a curious discovery. The great ocean of stars awaits us. What or who will be there? In centuries past, our ancestors built the great undersea ruins that still reveal their secrets to us today. The sort of backstory here is, and I realize that my UI is kind of blocking a lot of this text. Perhaps I can hide it for this instance. So the backstory is more or less that that you were once spacefaring, and then some sort of cataclysmic event happened, and you stopped being spacefaring. You went back from a space age to maybe atomic age or something like that, modern age. Yeah, so that's the preface, and this will sort of tell you there. Their works were used for many generations beyond us, their ultimate fate unclear. And then down here, it will tell you what that ruin provides benefit for. So we have found some basic understanding of early warp field experiments, which allows for quicker ship movement and range. And then a basic understanding of research labs, and also provides this colony 7% colony development bonus, 7% shields research, and 4% scenery. Scenery is for tourism, which is a very important way to make money. And down here, we can either dismiss it or say, hey, take me to the location of the undersea city ruins, which, if you're wondering where that is, it would be here. It would be in the colonies or the exploration city ruins. And I can build a research station at Elfoy for 6,000 credits to start to research the ruins, which is absolutely something that you're going to want to do when you have a construction ship, which I currently don't have yet, but I'll be getting soon. Now, within these tabs here, there's also these launch a tour. So anytime you're confused about, let's say, diplomacy or military or research, you can click these tours and they'll run you through sort of the basic tours. And that's a pretty powerful tool to learn about the game as well. Right, so dismissing that, we are informed that we made our first ship, the Frugal Impasse, and I can say, take me to the location of the Frugal Impasse, and this here is a navigation, or it's a exploration ship. And by start, as you can see down here, it is going to be fully automated. So the fully automation means that basically the game just decides where it goes, what it does, etc., etc. One thing that I will add about that is that if you start off where there's a significant amount of asteroids, you're going to want to manage your exploration ships early on. Because, for instance, we are an ocean moon around a gas giant, which has, let's call it like 35 asteroids or something like that. And our surveyor is going to get a lot more bang for their buck. This navigator that we just built, surveying non-asteroids. So it's going to be way smarter for me to manually control, at least initially, so that I'm not just asteroid hopping. Because really early on, it's very important to exploit as many resources as you can. So wasting time on a massive asteroid belt is a waste of time. And then That would be this. Here is a suggestion from my advisor. So the advisor is saying, I suggest that you build another exploration ship for 3396. Sure. I will agree to that. And you can see it's immediately deducted. Now, if you're curious about what you're currently building, here I am at Elfoy, and Elfoy has a shipyard. And this shipyard is currently building a Wild Wager construction ship, the research center that I just queued up, the exploration ship that I just queued up, but also private ships. Private ships that I don't directly control myself. A small freighter, another small freighter, and a mining ship. I feel like even at 0%, I'm hearing the music. Yeah. I guess they don't know what 0 means. So, let's start out. The first thing that you're probably going to want to do in a brand new game is to take a look at the research screen. So here's the research screen. You can hold control and zoom out. So there's a lot of different options. There are military options at the top. Here is troop and assault combat, reactors, shields, engines, and then down here you have construction and sensors, mining and energy, and you can go through all the research options. It will also propose research options over here. So it's saying, hey, next up, you might want to get early energy deflectors. I'm probably not going to listen to their suggestions. I'm going to make my own. So let's exit the research for now. And I want to send the Frugal Impasse over to the ancient Ackdarian spaceport. That is definitely the most bang for my buck for them to do. So here's the research station that I queued up to research the ruins that are on my home planet. And that's not going to get built until we have a construction ship. So if we take a look over here at the Wild Wager, which is right here, this Wild Wager is our first construction ship and is 17% getting built. All right, a quick poll for you all. No, I guess I don't need a poll just yet. So we have a new general. That reminds me of characters. So each character can have bonuses, but they can also have penalties. And if they have penalties, you should, and you think those penalties outweigh the bonuses, you can dismiss them. This leader, this is my one and true only leader at the moment, and I am going to run a raffle for the leader. Hold on, okay, there we go. I have the raffle all set up. So, here's the raffle timer, and when that timer's up, I'm going to be raffling off the general and the leader to currently active subscribers in the chat. And then the general here, we don't really have any information about them yet, but they're just parked on Elfoy as well. Until I have, like, assault armies or defense armies, I don't really have need for a general, but that's fine. Let me catch up on chat. Cheers, by the way. So once this little Frugal Impasse gets over to the Ackdarian spaceport, a lot more options get opened up to me, so that will be exciting. So here we are. Our scientists were long puzzled by the strange star that appeared to meander across our skies. Now we have discovered this star to be a severely damaged spaceport orbiting our homeworld. Surely it was built by our ancestors before the Great Cataclysm, which is believed to have devastated the galaxy centuries ago. Long, we have prided ourselves on our ability to design machines that are both efficient and beautiful. Now we have the opportunity to discover the engineering and artistic values of our ancestors. So I'm going to rebuild this thing. Spaceport has been rebuilt. Yeah, I didn't pick a very good spot for the UI there. But as you can see, there's a lot going on either side of the screen. So, our ancestors had a truly admirable understanding of form and function. The ancient station is a technological marvel and an aesthetic wonder. So here it is. I would say it's actually pretty neat looking. While rebuilding the spaceport, workers have managed to retrieve interesting data from the logs. The Ackdarians who inhabited the station used an unfamiliar dating system, but we believe the entry dates from centuries past, perhaps long ago as 1,000 years. At that time, the station detected massive earthquakes and tsunamis on our planet's surface. These resulted in catastrophic damage to many undersea cities. In the aftermath, that is devastating plagues swept through the remaining population. This explains why we not only lost our technological skills, but our knowledge of the past. A small crew was left on the base, while the rest of the personnel took shuttles down to the planet to assist the population below. Eventually, the remaining crew lost contact with those on the surface. So, that's all I'll read of that. But that gives you an information about why we were once spacefaring and why we are not anymore. Now, with the surveyor, because I had manually told them to go over there, for me to tell them to have a new mission, the Frugal Impasse, you can go into the Exploration tab up here, and then go to Exploration Ships, or F5. So here's the Frugal Impasse, having completed its going to the Ackdarian space station. And what I'm going to do next is start to survey Scipion 5. I'm going to manually control Frugal Impasse for a bit, because I don't want to, like I said, survey all those asteroids. I will eventually want to survey the asteroids, because the asteroids typically will have stuff like steel, which is useful. But there's a lot of survey work to be had there until we actually find the good ones to mine, and you're going to get a lot more resources from moons and the like. All right. So another thing to note is research stations. So the ancient Ackdarian spaceport is a research station which gives 7% shields research. And then we're also building the Scipion research station, which also gives 7% shields research. That is being built here once I get a construction ship. And the secret of vectoring engines is deciphered from the spaceport. So that's a little heads up. So if you take a look up here, you can see thrust vectors is already 50% complete. And this spaceport's going to reveal a few other researches for us, which is very nice. All right, quick question. What soundtrack to use? Give you 2.5 minutes to vote on that. Secrets of fighter bays. So if we take a look at the research again, for fighter bays, 50% of it is now done. Big time saver. And that there is the raffle for the leaders. So the leader of everybody is... Oh, I guess I can't copy and paste? For real now? Daedor it is. And then, the General Maylen. Like it. Congratulations. I'm sure we will have a good many other raffles to come as we add people. All right. So really early on, without the use of better warp drives, we move around very slow. So there is sort of an order of operations of what research to get. There is a meta, and I'm not actually going to stray too far from the meta, I'll be perfectly honest. So what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to actually queue up research labs, and I'm going to pay the upfront costs of 500 credits, 50 silicon, 50 steel, and 50 polymer to add research labs to the queue. Now, if you don't want to pay the upfront costs, you will be given like a random research at the end of when you're currently researching. So it's not necessarily required to queue research up like that, but if you want more control over what you're researching and the direction that you're taking, definitely do a little bit of manual queuing. So here it is, the new construction ship, and this construction ship is going to be, it's right now set for no mission, but it is fully automated. And we need to give it a mission. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it over to Scipion 5. I don't know what resources are going to be at Scipion 5, but I do know that I'm likely to want to exploit them, whatever they might be. Alright, looks like we're going with my soundtrack. Let's hope that 0 means 0 when I drag this all the way down. So, music on. Let me turn that down. Doesn't need to be at like 200%. My soundtrack's a little bit more chill. The soundtrack of Distant Worlds is kind of clingy and aggressive, if you like that kind of thing. But when I'm just peacefully exploring around, aggressive music is maybe not that necessary. So we are 77% into getting early warp field experiments, which unlocks the skip drive. So at start, we have rockets that are very, very underpowered, and as you can see, traveling with the Explorer traveling to Scipion 5 is moving slow. Here it is in ×2 speed, so yeah, that's a pretty good indicator of how slow it moves. Billy, Toby, and W. Slayer, thank you for the follows, by the way. An Arc Rune for the resub. Nice. I appreciate it. So, question for you all. Should I do other game tours? Do you want me to go through the tours, which take, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes each for some of the different game mechanics? Or would you like me to just explain as I go? And this can be up to you. I'll give you 5 minutes to vote on that. Now, the developer also has some videos on YouTube that are pretty okay at explaining certain game mechanics. They have a diplomacy one, they have a resources one, they have a military one. You can find that on YouTube as well. I apologize, I don't have a link for that. But, yeah, you can dig that up for sure. So our research station is about halfway built. And one of the other benefits that we're going to get from this research station is once it is built, I'll actually be able to have concurrent research projects. So that's another huge boon that I will unlock, allowing me to have two things being researched at once instead of one. Obviously not at the same speed as one, but it allows you to have a bit more choice on the direction. Oh my god, is this the... No, that's the constructor. Alright, here's the survey ship that we built, chugging along. Anon, thank you for paying it forward for the gifted subs. Another thing I'm going to do over here is to queue up some additional exploration ships. So I'm going to build 2 more navigators, which is this button down here on the bottom left. And then if you're wondering what you're currently having queued up, you can go to your construction tab and just check. Oh, here's what I have queued up. And in fact, I am going to change my mind. The Ackdarian spaceport isn't really building anything, so I'm going to have them build the navigators. And then I'm going to go to Elfoy and cancel these navigators, cancel the construction of these 2. Because Elfoy was already backed up a whole bunch of time because of the long queue that we had there. Hyperspace technology discovered. So now we have just discovered the basic warp drives, and I am currently working on research labs next, which will take 2.66 years at our current tech level. So any ships that incorporate the warp drives, the skip drives that we just unlocked, are going to be able to move around a whole lot faster. So the ships that I'm queuing up right now are going to be pretty good at exploration. And a new scientist has arrived. So because we had a breakthrough of our last project, we have a new scientist to raffle off. There it is. So good luck. I'm resetting the eligibilities. And one of you will be this researcher. So what this researcher does, they're currently untested, so they don't really have any benefit, but they are going to be researching at the Sipin Research Center and providing benefits once we know what benefits they provide. It's also pretty important to just keep an eye on the people that you have, because, again, like I said, it's not always positive. Yes, Sipin5, I love you. So, Sipin5 has just discovered a whole bunch of gases here. It has very rich source of Caslon, and Caslon is one of the most important resources early on. Let me just resolve that, because it's pretty clear that you guys don't want me to do the tours. So Caslon is basically just space fuel. It's universal reactor fuel, and that was found here at Sipin5, which is awesome. And then we also discovered argon, which is useful for shielding and reactor components and weapons. We also found krypton for shielding reactor components and weapons, and also discovered a hidden item which gives a 16% industrial research bonus. Good gas giant. Very good gas giant. And we can dismiss all these messages here now that I've read them. So, if we go over to the discovery here, Frugal Impasse, thank you for that. Go over to Eskunai and survey there. And then this constructor here, I'm going to build a mining station, which is MS1 at Sipin5. I'm going to prioritize the Caslon mining more than the research station. But what I can do, once I have another constructor, which wouldn't be a terrible idea for me to build one now, so I'll queue that up. Oh, maybe I don't want to queue that up here. Let me take a look at where I should... Yeah, at the Ackdarian spaceport. I'm going to queue up a constructor so that I have 2 constructors roaming around instead of 1. Yeah, that was a pretty good find there. All right, so here is the research station, the Sipin Research Station, which we built to research the ruins that are on this planet. We go back to colonies. Wait, no. What is ruins? Yeah, Shift F5. So we are getting the colony development, shields research, and scenery. We're actually not getting the scenery because that would be a resort station, if I could say it right. But what this will allow us to do is to raise our current concurrent projects. So the research labs that we have here, I am going to queue up some secondary research in order to research 2 things at once. So I am going to do... probably expanded civilian ships, which allows for colony ships, larger mining ships, passenger ships, and fuel tankers. A resort station is big money, yeah. That would be expanded space stations, but expanded space stations also require some other prerequisites. Either of these are probably good to start with. I'm going to do the civilian ships, though. So I'm going to pay the upfront costs, and that's going to be a longer project because it's going to take a bit more time. And you'll see that pop up here in a minute. Rushing to resorts early on is definitely a good way to go. So here we have some additional exploration ships leaving, and I'm going to send this one over to Skimai. And then here is another one, and I'm going to leave this one automated. In fact, actually, I'm going to refit it because I think it will incorporate the new skip drive in it if I refit it. I'm not really sure they came out with skip drives initially. And we'll see if that one can go more intergalactic than the last one. All right. Fully automate. Still under construction, still under construction. Manual. So the Dire Scoundrel is the one that's being fully automated. And there we have the raffle timer for the researcher. Going to Sylvanti. Just don't become a Wendigo on me. Or have negative traits. I'd rather not have to dismiss anyone. All right, new construction ship has been... No, new exploration ship has been built. And here's the new construction ship. So this construction ship is going to go over to the gas giant and build the research station instead. And the first hyper jump is happening now. Let me zoom all the way in. It is the grasping chance. Here, I'll just dismiss, pause, go to the grasping chance. So this is one that I had retooled. And we are now jumping. Okay, it was a jump, but we're only really surveying the asteroids, which is boring. So let's go ahead and survey this forest moon. Now that it has jump drives. And you'll see the speed difference just getting the early warp field. It's pretty significant. I do have a little bit of extra money, so... Oh, do I not have enough money to rush? No, I don't. Rushing allows you to speed up research at the cost of just flat currency. So here he goes. Heading over to Sippin 3. And really early on, you just want to sort of micromanage your surveying, so you're surveying things that matter first. So here's a nice planet that I'm going to survey. I highly doubt this is going to be colonizable for us without an incredible amount of research, but one can hope. It's not going to be colonizable. I already call it. So you can see the old surveyors that are moving at microscopic speeds, or rather tiny speeds, which probably need to get retrofitted because they're horribly slow. Yep, here's another one. How about you go refit? So our current constructors are building a research and mining station at Sippin 5. And then we got over to Sippin 7, the ice planet that has rings. That's pretty. I'm going to tell this one to refit. I probably shouldn't have sent them out to Skunai when I did, because they are so slow. And then you are heading to Sippin 3. Sippin 3 has a colony suitability of about 2. That's not bad, but what you're really looking for is about 20 to make it truly colonizable. Colony 2, or stability 2, means that you'll have to pay probably more money than you want to invest to make it inhabitable. But there is research to be done to improve the suitability later on. That research is in the beyond the basic colonization tree. Oh, my cash flow. We'll be fine. Now, speaking of cash flow, if you go to your funding levels, my funding levels are basically fully automated. Even if you try to move these numbers around, they're just going to automatically reset because you have it as fully automated. So one of the things I wanted to show you is how to change the policy settings. So here, under the first tab or F, what F key is that? Well, whatever. In the Your Empire tab here, you can go to policy settings, and let me pause a second. You can actually set up all of your automation settings here. So there's different settings. There's fully automated. There is suggest, but then execute. So if you don't actually agree to it, it will do it anyway. And then there's just suggest, where it makes the suggestion, but it doesn't force it upon you. And then lastly, there is manual. You fully manually control. For new players, leaving it on default is probably a good balance. And I am getting worried about the first giveaway. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to reset the eligibility here, and there is going to be a keyword that you have to type in to become eligible. But really, anyone can be eligible. So if you look at the giveaway command, right at the end it says join giveaway in order to be able to enter it. And here is the giveaway timer. It's just going to say raffle timer. And if you type that, you become eligible for a Distant Worlds 1 key donated by the developer. And thank you for the reminder, Shield. So over here, we did discover at Sippin' 7 resources, which is basically vodka, which increases colony development and colony happiness, which we could exploit later on. And then Tiderios, which is a rare inert gas used in weapons, shielding, and reactor components. So if you're curious about what resources you need, go to the resource tab up here, which is the little mining pick. And you can see what resources we have and what resources we need. So currently, the planet that we started on has polymers and Cassian crystals. So I have plenty of polymers and Cassian crystals. So for polymers, I produce about 5 per second, and I use about 0.78 per second. So it's not exactly a resource that I'm struggling with. But if you take a look at steel or Caslon, which is reactor fuel, that's what I am in super high demand for. So this gives you kind of an overview of how you should mine. It's also really important to note that building mining stations costs resources that are finite, and you have to pay out the nose for once you run out of them. So there is, let me find the list here, but there's basically a list of resources that you should prioritize early on, so that you don't end up in like an economic pit. Caslon being one of them, Mebnar, Necros, Carbonite, Steel. I think that's the list, if memory serves, but in either case, just be careful not to go mining station happy, because if you're not careful about how you're using your initial resources, you will run out, and it will not be good. And then in the resource menu here, you can also see where you're currently mining. So right now I'm only mining Elfoy because we haven't built the station here at Sippin' 5 yet. It's only 72% done. It will show you where you can go next. So here it's like, hey, Sippin' 5 would be amazing because it has Caslon and Krypton that we're in shortage of. Or Sippin' 7, which has this vodka that we're in shortage of. This is a lot less important than Sippin' 5 though. And then here's my mining ships that actually physically do the mining, and they're privately owned vessels. And then fuel tankers, which I currently don't even have the research for yet, but fuel tankers allows you to refuel ships at a distance, which is particularly important if you're trying to move military fleets. So some of the surveyors here are surveying the asteroids, which I am okay with. So we're going to find some Membnar and Steel in these asteroids. And what we're probably going to want to do is to survey as many asteroids as we can once we have all the larger orbital bodies surveyed, in order to figure out which asteroids are the highest in Steel and Membnar, so that I'm mining the things that matter the most, or have the most impact. But I'm going to tell this surveyor specifically to go to Eskunai, because I'd rather have them be surveying Eskunai. Kazlon, Steel, Carbonate, Necros, Mebnar, Polymer, Kazlon, and Kazlon. Okay, yeah, I got the full list then. Yeah. Steel and Mebnar is relatively easy to get from asteroids, like I said. So you're going to have an abundance of that. You just have to set up a few high-yield asteroids specifically. And then my home planet has the Polymer. All right. Once these new exploration ships refit, like the Wild Ruse will be next, I'll send them out to Schemai. You have about 20 seconds left to join the giveaway. And let me go get that key. Helps to have the thing that I want to raffle off, huh? All right, so you are done, Wild Ruse. You're leaving the construction yard, which means survey Schemai. Okay, there we go. Good luck. First key going to Ryan Maj. Congrats. Let me get you whispered here in just a sec. There you go. Key is sent. Thank you for watching Distant Worlds 2, which originally streamed live on Twitch March 15th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind that this series is a casual one, where I'm just introducing a new game to the channel. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you're wondering if this game will return to the channel sometime in the future after this stream is finished airing on YouTube, the answer is simple. It might. It is up to you. Distant Worlds 2 is proposed for me to play in the months of April and May, so if you want to see more of it, vote when it comes up in the polls. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel. I'll catch you later.